Hello, and welcome to the Smile Revolution Show. I'm Princess Wow. I don't have to spell it anymore because it's right down there. I have this Baltimore accent, so I used to always have to say WOW. So, anyway, welcome. We raise awareness to the healing power of a genuine smile. And I am, let's see, a woman of many hats. Oh, I make hats. I am, let's see, a creator of one woman shows and singer songwriter and ukulele player, learning guitar. And what else? I don't know. I paint on clothes and been doing these shows. It's 161st show since March 2020. But I had a radio. I'm a previous radio show host with musicians like Pete Seeger, Richie Havens, and many more who were on my show, and then authors and doing uplifting, wonderful projects. And then I got back into doing this March 2020. Sorry if it's a repeat for my loyal friends who watch, but some people, you never know who's watching. So it's Women's History Month, and I am featuring a couple women this month. Nora Jacobson, who I've interviewed this week, and who's a filmmaker and producer. And then Jane Applegate, I'm going to have on the last Thursday of this month, who is a friend of mine for many years, who is a film and TV producer. And she has this new series called that she's working on, Remarkable Women series. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about it, and then you'll hear about her in a couple weeks. So it's called Remarkable Women. I said that series.com if you want to look it up. We're telling untold stories about remarkable women throughout history who often set their aspirations aside to support others. We are producing an inspiring episodic series relying on a hybrid documentary storytelling format, including expert interviews, archival footage, photographs, animation, and scripted scenes. And let's see what else. It's Jane Applegate, who's co-creator and executive producer. Mirha, I hope I'm pronouncing her name right. Mirha Ratola, and then Alice Look, who's a veteran TV production executive, and she's at A&E. She managed an in-house production team. Anyway, they're all very impressive, and there's a whole bunch of other creatives working on this with them. And so anyway, I'm not going to get into featuring one of the women right now, because in 2 weeks you're going to hear in detail about who they're featuring so far. It's really exciting. I went to their launch last week in Manhattan. It was amazing. Okay, so let's see. I usually like to do some quotes before I have Nora Jacobson on. Okay, I have this calendar. Today's calendar quote from Albert Einstein is, "Experience is the teacher of all things." And then I have this book. It doesn't even say who it's by. I don't know. The Book of Happy, 255 Ways to a Happier You, Simon and Schuster. And there's some really good quotes in here and ideas. Anyway, F. Scott Fitzgerald, American author, said, "It was only a sunny smile and little it cost in the giving, but like morning light, it scattered the night and made the day worth living." And then here it says, "Smile at yourself. It may sound silly, but smiling causes an emotional response in your body that can actually make you feel happier. Smiling at other people can make them and you feel happier, but smiling at yourself in the mirror can have the added effect of boosting your self-esteem and self-love. Imagine smiling at yourself in the mirror every morning. Think about what that would do for your confidence and mood throughout the day." And then Groucho Marx, American actor, comedian, "I said, not events, have the power to make me happy or unhappy today. I can choose which it shall be. Yesterday is dead. Tomorrow hasn't arrived yet. I have just one day today, and I'm going to be happy in it." And let's see what else. Okay. "The art of being happy lies in the power of extracting happiness from common things." Henry Ward Beecher, American abolitionist and pastor. Anyway, and then we've got "The World According to Mr. Rogers." Oh, wait, I have a comment here. Hi. Okay. Hi. Thanks for joining, Laura. Okay. As human beings, this is from Mr. Rogers. As human beings, our job in life is to help people realize how rare and valuable each one of us really is, that each of us has something that no one else has or ever will have, something inside that is unique to all time. It's our job to encourage each other to discover that uniqueness and to provide ways of developing its expression. And let's see. Well, somebody wants to say hello. This is my first Miss Wow doll. She likes to get on camera. And she is from a picture of me, if you didn't know. And I have a smile bag too. Okay. And I don't smile all the time. It's about giving and receiving smiles. But sometimes you need to remind me to smile, right? Well, some people smile all the time, I've discovered. Now, this project started 18 years ago. The last time I saw my dead conscious, he gave me a big grin and we had a difficult relationship. And that smile changed my life for the better. So, okay, someone else wants to say hi. Here's my little eraser. Oh, he matches my ring. He, she, they. Okay, so let's see now. And does everyone have a joy jar? I made this. Let's see. Would bring being with my cat Tiggy, also known as the Queen of Wow the Second. Does your cat or dog, if you have one, have an AKA? Okay, now let's see. Okay, my next, I'm going to give you a little bit about Nora Jacobson. And I met Nora years ago from Jane Applegate. And there's Virginia. Hi. Oh, hi, Virginia. I haven't talked to you in a while. Thanks for joining. So I met Jane Applegate. I've known Jane since the 90s, and I met Nora from Jane. And she actually filmed and edited one of my Hat Happening performances in Vermont, where she lives, many years ago. And well, many years ago, 2006. Yeah. So, okay. So Nora Jacobson is an award-winning filmmaker of documentaries and narrative films. Her films include the Hanji Box, a six-part collaborative film, Freedom and Unity, the Vermont Movie, My Mother's Early Lovers, Nothing Like Dreaming, and Delivered Vacant. Her films have screened at many festivals, including Sundance, the New York Film Festival, and are shown on PBS. And actually, the film, I'm going to show a teaser of it tonight. Ruth Stone's Vast Library of the Female Mind is actually on PBS right now. Yeah, good to see you. It's been a long time. Yeah, it's been a long time. Oh, how's Roland? Oh, Roland's fine. He's living on a reservation, my husband, in North Dakota near Canada. He's doing good, thank you. We're still writing songs together, and he's working on his invention and working on our music. Okay, so the storyline of the Vast Library of the Female Mind about Ruth Stone, the poet. She was a promising young poet living an idyllic life with her beloved husband, a poet and professor. When he died unexpectedly by suicide, Ruth was flung out into the world, destitute, with three daughters to support. And I never knew about her. Has anybody heard about Ruth Stone before? I hadn't until I saw the screening when she brought it to Rhinebeck at Upstate Films last year. And I saw it again the other night on PBS. Thanks, Laura, for her letting me know. I thought it was just screened like it. She gave me a list of the screening times on PBS. But you can actually go, if you go on the app, you can find it. It's there. Char de Nord, a Vermont poet laureate, said, Nora Jacobson chronicles Stone's heroic life story as a poet, mother, and teacher in a 76-minute film that leaves its viewers inspired, enlightened, entertained, and uplifted. A visually compelling film as well, enhanced with animation by Ruth's granddaughter, Bianca Stone, and rare archival footage. It captures the rural grist of Stone's heroic career, leaving no question as to why she has become both a Vermonter and a national treasure. Okay, so here she is. An inspiring documentary. Yes, Laura, you just saw it this week too. Yeah, on PBS. Okay. Okay. Hi, Nora.
Well, hello, Mindy, Princess of WoW.
It's great to see you.
Nice to see you.
I haven't seen you
Wonderful.
in, well, when did you do your upstate films? When was that? A year or so ago?
Less than a year.
Less than
Let's
a year.
see.
Okay, well, last year, it was last year, right?
It was definitely last year. Yes, we came up to Rhinebeck,
Upstate films. I
upstate
know,
film.
and had your screening.
Yes, and you were so
Ugh.
kind to drive all the way to come and see it.
Well, it's just an hour.
That's a lot.
It's not too bad, but anyway, the film is so great. It's an amazing film.
Oh,
I
thank
really,
you.
really love it. And I saw it again last night,
Uh-huh.
which I'm so
Did you?
glad because yeah, it's right on PBS. Anybody can go if you have the PBS app, you can find it.
Oh, that's good to know
I
because
know. So
I have all these little, schedules around the country, but you don't even need them.
I guess not. And it's because I was like, I was talking to my friend and I was telling her, oh, well, you can see it this night in Austin, Texas. And she's like, well, let me just check.
Yeah.
And she found it, and then I found it. I downloaded the PBS app on my Apple TV. I think maybe you need one of those, Roku or Apple TV devices. I'm not sure about
Yeah.
that. Or maybe just, I don't know, or Passport. I don't have Passport, so I found it. So
Great.
I'm really grateful because it's such a great film, and it's, as an artist, I mean, she's so inspiring, Ruth Stone,
Yeah.
just a really inspiring person. So I just want to mention first, you and I met in 2006 when I was doing my hat happening. I brought it to your performance space in Vermont because of Jane Applegate, our mutual friend, who's a film and TV producer. And I'm really grateful because thank you. You did a great job filming, editing my piece.
Oh, that was so fun. And yeah, I mean, I looked at it recently, that little film. I hope you've shown it on your show because
Yeah,
there's some people in that piece who are no longer with us. My mother, some old
I know.
friends. So,
I know. And it's like, so I know. So and your mother was so great in it.
yeah,
I know it was really fun. It was fun. So now I'm so glad that we did it.
me
And
too.
people still watch it,
They
so
do?
thank you.
Oh,
Yeah, I
great.
people find it on my YouTube channel and tell me yeah, they dig it up and yeah, it's just really fun. I'm so
Oh, good.
glad with it. I was able to have, for you to do that. So thank you.
Yeah, me too.
And thanks to Jane Applegate, who I'll be interviewing soon about her new TV series, Remarkable
Great.
Women.
Yeah,
Yeah, and it's Women's History Month, so
that's
I'm
right.
glad to have you on and Jane in the same month
Yes. Yes. And I'll be
featuring.
working with Jane on her Remarkable Women piece too, amongst many other women
Oh, good.
producers.
Oh, that's great. I didn't know that. Oh, great. Okay, good. Okay, that's really neat. So, it took you 12 years to do this film,
At least, yes.
at least?
Well, I started in 2009 and let's see, I finished in 2022. Is that, so yeah, it's about 12 years, 12, 13 years. It took a long time. I wasn't working on it completely full time, of course. I was doing other things, I had other jobs, but it was over the course of that period that I filmed it. And then it took a long time to edit it. I think I started editing it seriously in 2017 or so. And then the last 2 years, I was pretty consumed with it.
Okay. Wow, it's amazing. I love and the animation by her granddaughter,
Bianca Stone,
Bianca
yes, who's a
Snow.
wonderful poet
It's
also. Yeah.
okay. And also I mean, it's so great how you put that in, you edited in her animation,
Yeah.
which adds a lot. It's very whimsical and joyful
Yes, good. I'm
adding
glad. I've
that
never heard
in.
someone say that, but I think that's true, and I hope it's true that there is joy and
Yes, that's what it
when
definitely is. It adds a
yeah.
lot of joy.
Oh, good.
Yeah, yeah. and all the archival footage. I mean, we have different ages, and she was young. It's amazing, and all the still photographs. It's so fascinating.
Great.
It's a really,
Yeah.
I love it so much.
Oh, that's so good. You know, the archival material was given to me by this Hollywood editor named Sidney Walensky. You may remember The Sopranos and The Shape of Water, that movie, and the TV show The Sopranos. Well, Sidney edited those, but in the 70s, he was a young filmmaker, a young film student,
Oh, oh
graduate student,
wow.
and he had decided he wanted to do his thesis film about Ruth. And so he went up to Goshen, Vermont, where she was living, and spent a week with her filming and made a 14-minute film with all that footage. So there was a lot that was left over, and he basically just gave me all that footage. So I
Oh
was able
wow.
to weave in the old footage with the recent footage of Ruth, plus, the animation, plus everything else.
Oh, that's so neat. That is so, it's amazing. And it's, the story is so amazing too. How well, I'll just read it. I mean, have your sheet here, one sheet here, about how Ruth Stone was a promising young poet living an idyllic life with her beloved husband, a poet and professor. When he died unexpectedly by suicide, Ruth was flung out into the world, destitute with three daughters to support. It's an amazing story. It really
Yeah,
is.
yeah, it
And
is.
through, it's amazing, and just her, she's just such an amazing person.
Yeah, it's not a
And
sad story or morose
I
either. Even
know,
though
right,
it's a very tragic thing that happened, she was able to kind of alchemically, like a magician, turn that tragedy into wonderful art.
right, exactly. And I have some quotes here that's helped me, that is, I can relate to as an artist as well. That she said, "My art has always been my rock," and then she says, "My work keeps me alive."
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and
Yes,
I
I
love
think
those.
all artists, yes, we all feel that for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I can, yeah, definitely. I've always felt that way as well. So, and how did you get, you have all these award-winning poets. Do they live in Vermont, or how did you connect with them?
Oh, no, they don't live in Vermont. Most of them don't live in Vermont. Well, members of Ruth's family told me about them, and
Right.
Claude Denord, who is a poet that's interviewed quite a bit in the film, told me about them. And of course, I'd heard of some of them, but someone like Sharon Olds, for example, who's a very famous poet, Pulitzer Prize winning poet, Bianca had been her assistant and student at NYU. So
Oh, wow.
Bianca knew Sharon and put me in touch with her. And I wrote to Sharon and said, "Can I come to New York and interview you?" So my sister and I drove down to New York, or maybe we took the train, can't remember. And we spent a couple of days in New York interviewing both Sharon and Edward Hirsch, who happens to be, in addition to a very wonderful poet, the president of the Guggenheim Foundation, that had given Ruth a grant back in the day, actually two grants. And so we interviewed both of them on different days. And then Toy Derricott, also a wonderful award-winning poet who lives in Pittsburgh, we drove out to Pittsburgh, my husband and I, and actually interviewed her. And the other people, let's see, we were out on the West Coast in the Bay Area, and were able to interview Willis Barnstone, the classical scholar who had gotten Ruth a bunch of jobs teaching, and Sandra Gilbert, who had written a book called Mad Woman in the Attic, and a whole chapter devoted to Ruth. And so
Oh,
we
wow.
interviewed both of them. And so, sort of piecing together these interviews.
Oh, that's really neat. So do you get grants for your film, or for this
Yes,
film?
yes.
So that's how you do all this.
Yes, it's all grant based. You don't get investors for documentaries usually. It's usually from arts councils, humanities councils, wealthy individuals, people who have organizations that give money away.
Right, right.
It again, you piece together the funding sources, and that's part of why it takes a long time to make
Because
a documentary.
you have to do all that, right? You're the one who has to write all these grant
Oh,
proposals, right?
definitely,
So
absolutely.
that's part of the yeah. So you have to wait for the money, and it takes time to write a grant, and then it takes time to get the money,
Yeah,
right?
but I mean, fortunately, since I do everything myself, I mean, I shot this film. I mean, the only things I didn't do personally was most of the time I didn't do the sound recording. I had a sound person with me. Sometimes it was my husband, sometimes my sister, sometimes I hired
Okay,
people to do sound, to hold the mic.
right.
And
Okay,
then later, a friend who's a wonderful composer composed the music, and I paid him a very little amount of money. And then finally, the post-production work, like color correction, sound mixing, I do hire someone to do that, because
okay,
I mean, I do enough, I edit, I shoot. So yeah, I edit and shoot. So that's a lot. And so there are a couple of these very technical tasks that I do like to have someone else do,
okay.
because
So
I'm not
wait,
that.
when did you start getting into filming documentaries? And did you go to school for this to learn how to do all this, or
Not
you just self-taught?
well. I mean, I've been making films since high school, actually.
Okay,
And I um I did go to graduate school, an art school, the School of the Art Institute of Chicago.
okay,
And I studied experimental film. So we didn't learn, it's not like NYU or, one of these craft oriented schools. It's an art school. And so
okay,
we studied with fantastic filmmakers, experimental filmmakers like Stan Brakhage. And he was kind of my mentor at the time. But we didn't learn really. I mean, yeah, there was some training about how to use cameras, but
okay,
it wasn't like NYU, I'll tell you that. And so when I got out, I moved to New York and started living in Hoboken, New Jersey, where I started making a film about Hoboken. And I had studied anthropology in college, and I loved anthropology. So documentary filmmaking for me was a pretty easy shift.
okay,
And since experimental film, certainly you couldn't make a living, you still can't make a living as a experimental filmmaker. I thought that if I learned how to be a straight shooter, meaning like, use the camera in a very conventional way and edit in a conventional way, I could get some jobs. Well, I couldn't. It was very hard to get jobs in the New York area in the film industry. But I
okay,
had an MFA from the School of the Art Institute. So I started teaching, and that's really how I made a living, was teaching while I
okay,
was in the New York area. I taught at the
okay.
New School, I taught at Ramapo
Oh,
College, I taught
uh-huh.
at SUNY Purchase. And then, so
You taught film. You taught film?
taught filmmaking, because I had taught
Filmmaking.
myself by making this film Delivered Vacant about gentrification in Hoboken. I taught myself really how to make a documentary,
Okay,
because I was fascinated by what was going on in the housing market in Hoboken. And
okay,
so I basically taught myself by making these short little documentaries about Hoboken. Sort of the town was my palette. And then I embarked on this major, massive documentary, full-length documentary about gentrification. And that film got into the New York Film Festival, to my surprise, and Sundance and all these other festivals. And that
wow.
really opened the door for me as a filmmaker.
Oh, that's great. Oh, that's really neat.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So how many films have you done since then?
Oh, well, let's see. So Delivered Vacant was my first sort of public film that was out there, distributed on the festival circuit. Then that was a documentary. And then
And wait, do you do all that too? Like, how do you get into the film circuits to all the festivals. Do you do that too, or do you have someone to help you with that, or you do all that
Oh, I do
yourself
that.
too?
I do that.
You do
I
that
do that.
too?
I mean, I had someone who helped me get into the New York Film Festival and Sundance, John
Okay.
Pearson, who used to live up near you, Croton on Hudson, actually. Now he lives in Austin, Texas. But he was he was instrumental in helping me
Okay.
open he loved Delivered Vacant. And so he helped me. He gave me finishing funds. He helped me get into the New York Film Festival. He helped me get into Sundance.
Wow.
And then, so after that, but I was sort of burnt out from documentary filmmaking at that point. I'd spent 8.5 years on this film, and and I was tired of kind of twisting like I was trying to make people say the things I wanted them to say, which, in a documentary you have to edit their words, but I found it challenging. And I thought, well,
Okay.
what if I just wrote the dialogue? Maybe I should write a script. So I had a neighbor in Vermont near my sister in Vermont, who was still in Vermont. And she had written a family memoir called Letters to My Mother's Early Lovers. And I asked her if she would collaborate on a screenplay. And she said yes. And so I came back to Vermont really to make this film, My Mother's Letter. Well, we shortened it to My Mother's Early Lovers, and you can see it on my website. And that film was with actors. It was a screenplay based on a screenplay, and that did pretty well. And we raised money from investors and made that film. And I discovered that I really loved working with actors. And so I made 2 more more or less feature-length narrative films after that. And one of them
Okay.
is Jane Applegate, actually, because she helped produce the Hanji Box.
Okay.
And that film, we were supposed to go to South Korea and shoot it. And we actually went to South Korea twice and almost.
No, I remember this now. I remember this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then the stock market crashed. This was in 2009.
Okay.
And our Korean investor dropped out.
Okay.
And so Jane had to move on to other things. And I never wanted to give up the project, but I couldn't really do it on that scale anymore.
Okay. Okay.
So I vowed to make it as a short film, which I did end up doing. And it ended up being a 60-minute film. And it's called the Hanji Box. And you can find that on my website too. But meanwhile, I was still making documentaries, and because I love both forms, I really hate to pigeonhole myself as a documentary or narrative filmmaker. So I was making this really long film called Freedom and Unity, the Vermont Movie, about Vermont. And it ended up being a 6-part collaborative film made with other Vermont filmmakers. And
Oh, wow.
so that's called Freedom and Unity, the Vermont Movie.
Oh, that's
And
neat.
then I got hired to make other documentaries. But then in 2009, I mean, I was already working on the Hanji Box and the Vermont Movie when I started working on the Ruth Stone movie.
Okay. Now, how did you get into doing the Ruth Stone? How did this happen?
Because this poet, Char Denord, called me up and said, "Do you want to come and interview this woman poet who I had never heard of? Because I think she's interesting and would be good on camera." So I went up and, just to spend the day interviewing her as a favor to Chard. And then by the end of the day, I was like, oh, she's amazing. I'd like to make a whole film about her.
Oh, that's cool. That's so neat.
I asked them, I said, to the family, would you mind if I invaded your homes and made a film about Ruth? And they were all pretty happy. So
yeah,
that's what happened. And so Ruth died in 2011. And meanwhile, I was continuing to work on other films. And then in 2014, I finally had some time to really start devoting myself to the Ruth Stone movie because I didn't want to drop it. And that's when I started filming Bianca, the poet and cartoonist, following her around the house, the old house, and then interviewing other poets and filming the renovation of the house.
Yeah, that
And
was amazing. That was so great. That's so neat. It was so neat how they all chipped in to fix it up and everything. I know it was really cool.
cool.
And now it's an art center, right? I mean, they have poetry. Do they still? Yes,
Yes.
it's a
It's
poetry
called
workshop.
it's called the Ruth Stone House. And if you go to ruthstonefilm.org, actually, if you want, you could put it on your on the page, ruthstonefilm.org, and they have these incredible workshops, poetry workshops, dream writing workshops, any kind of writing workshops, letterpress. They have an old-fashioned printing press. You can go up there and do residencies, and they're very vibrant. And Bianca's incredible and a wonderful poet and teacher. So I highly recommend any writers out there to check it out.
That's really neat, and it's in Goshen, Vermont.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. That is so neat to know about. It's just so great. The whole thing, it's just and the history and just everything that you did with the film. So I have a question. Are you going to submit it or did you submit it to the Academy Awards? Because I know there's a documentary. I don't know, just asking because I was thinking we just had the Academy Awards.
I know. No, I haven't. I submitted this film to many film festivals. I didn't submit it to Sundance, actually. But I submitted it to some big festivals and got turned down everywhere.
Really?
And then I started to get into some good but smaller festivals, like the Sebastopol Documentary Film Festival, where I'm going tomorrow.
Okay.
Santa Fe International Film Festival, some nice ones, but not the top tier ones. And I thought, well, the movie people aren't interested in this film. The poetry people are. The writing people are. People who don't even know they like poetry or didn't think they liked poetry, who discover it, like it. But it's not a commercial movie. If you look at a lot of the documentaries that get acclaim, they're very often about hot topics. They're about
you're right. Yeah.
About gender, sexuality, immigration.
Right, you're right.
They're about these hot topic, hot button issues. And this film, let's face it, it's about an old lady poet.
Right.
White poet. And so, people weren't that interested. When people take a moment to watch it, I think they see the value of it.
Right.
But so I don't even know how I think you have to be nominated for the Academy Awards anyway. I don't think you submit. I'm not sure.
Oh, okay. I didn't know. I don't know how it works. Yeah, I don't know. Actually, I want to show the trailer. So I'm going to take you off for a couple minutes. Let's watch that. Yeah. Okay. Hold on one sec.
Coming up this hill, there's this moment of anticipation before I come around the curve to see if the house is still there. And there's always that same amazing feeling. I feel like this place waits for me, to take me in again.
I see more now than then, but she who had my eyes closed them in happiness and wrapped the dark in her arms and stole my life away, singing in dreams of what was sure to come.
That intensity, what appears to be a kind of constant mourning, is owed to, I think, being haunted by one's material.
And these few precious days I'll spend with you.
In a way, I feel like Ruth's giant grief was very much like a part of our whole family dynamic.
You know when someone loves you. He did not love me.
Yeah. Clearly, if she had not wanted to talk about it, she was free not to talk about it, but she was very open about it.
I see it perfectly, except the beast fumbles and falters until the others wince. Everything shimmers and glitters and shakes with unbearable longing. The dancers who cannot sleep.
And the sleepers who cannot dance.
Those poems are so different from anybody else's poem. There is no style that is like Ruthie's. She didn't copy anybody.
Whoops. Okay. Anyway, it's so great. And I love the title too. Well, how did you get that title? How did you get that title?
Oh, that title. Well, that title comes from one of Ruth's poems. The poem is called Male Gorillas, and it's a poem about Ruth going into a diner and sitting at a little table and watching the rumps, the rear ends of these 5 old guys sitting at the counter, drinking their coffee and talking and chatting and kibitzing. And she is observing the whole scene and the waitress. And she says, it all goes into the, the vast, confused library of the female mind.
That's great.
And so I took out the word confused.
Right, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Whatever. I didn't want to make the title any longer than it already was.
Right. Uh-huh.
And I didn't want to denigrate Ruth, can make it sound like she was confused, right. But that's where the title comes from. And I hadn't thought of that title. In fact, we had a little session with a lot of friends brainstorming about a good title. And then Walter Stone, that's Bianca's twin brother, who you see in the film.
Right.
It was his idea. I don't know how we came up with it, but anyway, he suggested it. And my sister, who was there, said, "Oh, don't use that title. No man will ever want to watch this movie." And Walter protested and said, "But that's not true. I would. I'm a man." Mm-hmm. And so we went with it just because it's a weird enough, curious title, and it draws attention to itself. And a lot of people have said they like it.
I like it. I think it's a neat title. Good. Well, I think it's great that it's on PBS. I think that's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's great that they've embraced it.
I'm happy because I really wanted to get Ruth out there, her name, her work.
And you are.
To more people.
Yeah, and you are. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
That's wonderful. Yeah, it's really great. And who knows what the future holds. You never know what'll happen. You don't know what, and you keep working on getting it out there. So
exactly.
Are you working on another film now?
Oh, yes, I am.
Of course. What are you working on now?
Well, I'm working on a couple of films. I actually have a new film that is going to come out on PBS, I think in the fall, called Passion in a Pandemic, Making Opera at Hanover High School, which is a little film. I was hired to make it, but I embraced it as my own. So I ended up being co-producer of it. It's about these high school kids during the pandemic who learn to sing opera and end up performing these beautiful arias from famous operas. And it's quite a coming of age story too. It's quite charming, I think, because the kids are so incredible. So that's finished, but I'm getting it out there.
That's great.
Yeah, I'm working on a documentary about pond hockey and fractals. And
what?
Fractals.
What's that?
Well, a fractal is a mathematical formula, really, that is that all of the things around us in nature and our own bodies embody. A fractal is a pattern. And if you look at our cells and our DNA and the cells and DNA of every living organism. It shares certain qualities and certain patterns and characteristics, and that is can be translated into a mathematical formula called a fractal. If you think of a spiral, for example, a spiral is a form that manifests itself in lots of different ways in nature. Well, that structure is a fractal.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, so it's about the relationship between this little pond where we skate and this community of people radiating out from it, like the fibers of a neuron that spread out into our body. That's one film, and I've been working on that like since 2000. A very, very long-term project.
Wow.
And then two narrative screenplays that I'm working on, and a TV series. Oh my God. Yeah. Way too much, really.
Wow. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Oh, with Jane?
With the one with Jane too, but then this other one, I mean, Jane is producing that one. I'm not producing it.
Right. The Remarkable Women, which I'm going to be featuring her shortly.
Yeah. I'm just one of the directors.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
But I have my own series, documentary series. We've applied to the National Endowment for the Humanities. Hope we'll get a grant for it. And then these two historical, fictional, not fictional, but historical, fictionalized versions of stories that happened in the 17th and 18th century.
Oh, neat. Oh, that sounds great.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
hard,
cool.
Challenging, but working. I mean, all you can do is continue.
You just keep going artists don't retire. We just keep going forward.
Exactly.
I know. Exactly. Yeah. Right.
I know. People say to me sometimes, are you still making films?
I know. It's like, of course.
Like as if they're surprised,
I know. Right. I know.
God.
It's like, are you still doing all these things? Like, what are we supposed to be doing? I mean, we're artists.
Oh, sorry.
Exactly. We just keep creating.
I know. Crazy.
Right. I know. It's just the ageism, or people think.
Yes, exactly.
It's ageism especially in our country.
Yeah. I
like
know.
You're still working. It's like, right.
Yeah, I know.
Right. So anyway, well, I don't always do this, but Barbara Walters passed away recently. And I watched one of her specials, and a couple ideas I've been using recently that she used to ask people. And one of them is, she would say, okay, so Nora Jacobson is.
Oh, I'm supposed to answer?
Mm-hmm.
Nora Jacobson is a filmmaker.
Okay. All right, next question. What is the best and the worst of times? What is the best and the worst of times in your life?
Well, I don't know if I can say the best, but one of the best was living in Paris as a teenager, an adolescent.
Oh.
I loved it. I loved France. I loved Paris. I loved living in France. I'd go back in a heartbeat if I could find a good project to do there, and be supported to do it.
Mm-hmm. Did your family move there?
Yeah. When I was between the ages of 8 and 15.
Oh, wow. That is so cool.
Yeah. And then maybe one of the worst was when I came back and went to high school in the United States and felt completely lost and traumatized.
Did you move to Vermont?
We moved back to Vermont.
Back to Vermont.
Yep. Another really great time was working. Every time I went to sit and edit the Ruth Stone movie, I was happy.
Okay. That's great.
That's good. Yeah. I think that's it.
Well, sounds good. That sounds good. Yeah.
Okay.
That sounds great. Yeah. Is there anything else you want to say to wrap this up?
No.
Okay.
No.
Yeah. I think we covered a lot of things here.
A lot. Thank you, Mindy. Great talking with you.
Yeah. I'm happy to. Thank you for taking the time to talk to my audience today. And I'm looking forward to hearing what people have to say. and happy I was able to play the trailer too.
Oh yeah. Well, it
So
was
that was-
wonderful for me to see it. I hadn't seen the trailer in a long time, and I thought, wow, it's not bad. Pretty good trailer.
Oh, good. Okay, great. All right.
Yeah.
Well, good to see you.
Good to see you, and tell your listeners if they want to get in touch. It's easy to find me, ruthstonefilm@gmail.com.
Oh, okay. Okay, great. And everything is on your website.
Yes,
Right.
exactly.
Okay, great.
Well,
All right.
yeah.
Well, have a good trip out to California.
Thank you, Mindy. Hope to see
Okay.
you in person sometime.
Yeah, that would be great. Okay, great.
All right. Bye.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
We'll
Bye.
talk to you later. Okay, bye. Anyway, I hope you'll enjoy that. And so next, I hope you can watch it on PBS too. It's so great. So next week, I've got Jan Close, and I'll read you a little bit about him. Let's see. Actually, I have his poster too. Wait, hold on one second. I'm going to show you his poster for a second, if I can find it. Wait, I know I put it. Here we go. Oh, here. Okay, here we go. Okay. So, Jan Close. He's an award-winning musician and songwriter. He just released his brand new album March 3rd, and he's started to tour again, is adding a new full band in South Africa. He's going on tour by the end of the month in the US, Germany, and Brazil this year. And his recent singles have charted on top 40 radio in South Africa and the US, with Love You the Most and Sugar My, both breaking the media-based top 40 chart, and his duet Pour the Champagne becoming a radio staple in South Africa. So anyway, he's going to be on next week. I hope you all can watch. Same time, 8 o'clock on Thursday. And yeah. Yes. Can I call you one day? Sure. Yeah. So anyway, so that's next week's show. And then the end of March, the Thursday at 8, I'm going to have Jane Applegate. So I'm excited about that. And I have exciting news that I'll be launching and explaining telling everybody next week. I have some exciting news on the horizon. So I'll be letting everybody know next week. And keep smiling and keep sweet. Join the smile revolution. If you can be grateful for the good, and I can't always do that either. I always say that there's always good going on. And if you can try to focus on the good, you can keep smiling and keep sweet. So talk to y'all soon. Thanks for watching. They're live on a replay, and I'll see you next week. And here are my credits. Last week I forgot. Okay. See you later. Bye. It's called the Smile Revolution that comes, goes round and back to you. So smile, 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 a simple smile will